President Trump signing an executive order, we've been talking about it, to create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Mackenzie Sagalis joins us now with more. We talked about it earlier, and I don't know whether it's true or not, but it was in the teleprompter, so it must be true. But it was disappointment about some details of the Bitcoin reserve caused Bitcoin to go down yesterday. Yeah, the crypto market has been plunging since last night on that. We know that it was because of what they said, or I mean, Bitcoin, moves 30% when does that in its sleep sometimes, over a period. Was there disappointment? If so, what was the disappointment? The big expectation was that we would see some sort of Bitcoin purchasing plan in tandem with the announcement of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. But the language in that executive order was very specific about it just meaning that we would hold on to what was already seized in criminal operations rather than roll out any sort of taxpayer dollars into a buying scheme. Who wants that? No one wants taxpayer dollars going into buying. Senator Lummis put forth a bill last year where you'd buy 1 million Bitcoin over the course of 5 years. You'd hold on to that for 20 years and periodically sell it off to pay down the, multi-trillion-dollar deficit. Why? We've sold in the past when we've come across some Bitcoin one way or another. And we sold it when it would have bought a pizza, and now it would buy a building. Well, and that goes to the larger thesis here. Some people are actually pleased to see that we would have this, strategy where the U.S. government would hold on to Bitcoin, because the benefit here, the argument is that it would be a hedge against inflation because there's this capped supply of 21 million tokens. Right. And so if you have that backing up the U.S. dollar, it would protect against inflationary pressures that would hit other fiat currencies. There's also this idea that it would diversify what we already have in our national reserves, other assets like a gold that might be more sensitive to central bank policies. What I will say, though, Bitcoin moves on Fed decisions. When the rate is hiked or is cut, Bitcoin price responds. Plus, governments around the world are not unanimous in believing Bitcoin is anything at this point. Well, maybe we are. There's still people that don't believe it's actually a store of value. There's people that still argue it could go to zero. Yeah, but there are a lot of members of the G20 who might follow suit. And I was talking to Brian Armstrong last night ahead of this summit today, and he's one of the members who's been advising the Trump transition team since the campaign trail. And he made the point that he thinks a lot of countries are going to follow. I know of already Middle Eastern countries, Gulf states, that have been looking into a Bitcoin buying strategy. There's also reportedly, conversations within the Chinese government to look to follow suit if the government in the U.S. makes this move to roll out a purchase plan.
But there is no purchase plan.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, if you have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, China used to be one of the epicenters for Bitcoin mining. It's very easy for them. They have all of this hydropower, and so they already have all the facilities, and they banned it a couple of years ago, but it takes nothing to turn it back on. And then, similar to Iran evading sanctions by just mining Bitcoin, they already have it on hand.
Right, but if we're not really buying it, right, we're not going to be buying it. You agree with that?
I think that right now we have around $17 billion worth of Bitcoin, and holding on to that is enough of a signal that other countries would follow suit. I think that there is an intention. Some of the language in that EO did say that if they could find budget-neutral ways to add it to our balance sheet, they would investigate that. Now, that, of course, stops short of a buying plan, but it signals that they're open to some way to do this if it doesn't take taxpayer dollars.
Do you know of a way they could do it without taking taxpayer dollars? No, honestly, yeah. I say that because it's the craziest. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my whole life.
Well, what's interesting to me is that President Trump spent a lot of time with Bitcoin miners on the campaign trail, and it goes to that larger thesis of other countries that are turning either sanctioned energy in the case of Iran or idle resources into Bitcoin. So that's a way to generate it. And yes, you have the energy inputs, but some of the biggest miners in the world are based in the United States. Core Scientific has a lot of operations across the country. And if it goes to 1 million, it's a great idea. If it goes down a lot, it's a horrible idea. El Salvador is one place. And they're getting hit hard by the IMF right now. Right, but which countries are just totally Bitcoin non-believers? Any of the majors countries at this? And there are some countries that probably need it more than any other countries because of their problem with hyperinflation. But there are countries that aren't going to do this, at least till it's the proof is in the
China.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are countries that have flip-flopped, right? If you have countries that subsidize energy power, and then you had a bunch of Bitcoin miners come in because they saw a chance to, Kazakhstan, China at one point, to your point, Becky, have had systems where they start to ban the operation altogether or heavily tax it to try to disincentivize people coming in to use this cheaper energy to mine the token.
Right.